This will be a demonstration of the Quickdraw weaving program's warp saver functions, specifically the block substitution or reverse block substitution options. This was a pattern my wife had started out to do on a series of mug rugs that had a simple chalice on them. Got through a few of them and decided she was having some problems, including a few too many broken warp threads. So we started looking at what some other alternatives were. Since this was a profile substitution out of summer and winter, if I ask for search subs, it will search through that particular threading sequence and determine what options it has. In this particular case, it's recognized as summer and winter one-to-one block threading. I have a choice of 4 different options on what the treadling would be. So if you'll watch, the pattern on the right is the thread diagram. As I switch, I can actually change which blocks, which treadling sequence I'm using. Now, the other thing this also does for me, you'll notice it's determined the threading sequence. And since I'm trying to save a warp, that can't change. From that, if anything I click, I can change. And if I scroll back over here, you'll notice that the pattern diagram shows the change instantaneously. If I click on the center line, single box appears. If I print off, it recognizes that it's a symmetric pattern, fills in all blocks, so that it will automatically keep track of what's going on in the real world. But if I want to change this, for example, if I want a taller flame, as I do that, now if I decide I want to actually add rows, I'm doing a right click here since it's in insert. If I do a delete, I do a right click, it'll delete those rows. If I insert a whole lot of rows, it may scroll off the page. The up and down arrows here allow me to scroll. What I'm actually looking at is the grid view here. If I go over to grid, I'd actually see the same thing sitting there. So it's kind of just a different view to the same thing. So I'm back playing with that. Depending upon how big a profile you have, you may run out of screen space. So the 2 blocks here are actually designed to make this little grid larger and smaller. If I want to clear it entirely, I just hit that button. I can clear that if I wanted to, and then undo should give it back to me. So as I go through and change the pattern, I can create whatever I want to. Now, I'd mentioned this was a pattern that we had actually started working on. Since I've actually loaded it from the directory, let me view the WIF in the directory. These were actually all block substitutions that were done from that same warp, just with a pretty broad variety, and I can quickly make those changes, go back to Loom Help, weave another copy of it, and so forth. So that's actually one aspect of what Warp Saver can do for me. And that is the end of that. Thank you.